Hello, welcome to Three Crows Runes. My name is Jen. Let's do some rune readings. Today we are doing readings about not being a doormat. So here's the thing. When you are a very kind person and you're a very compassionate person, there is a trap that you can fall into, which is just that you want to reach for that perfect compassion where everybody, you just want to love. I mean, you're going to love everybody. Okay, fine. But don't do it in such a way that you're getting walked all over. Like, that's just not going to help anybody except for the person walking on you. And then they'll get mad if you try to be not that. So better to rip that Band-Aid off right away. So basically you have to be able to stand up for yourself to a certain extent. Like, you have to be able to have boundaries and like not be a doormat for people that are going to treat you in that way. So what we're going to do is we have 4 cards from the Steampunk Tarot, card number 1, card number 2, card number 3, and card number 4. And each of these has a reading for you about perhaps a situation in your life where you maybe are just, for whatever reason, because it might not even be, because you have this honorable goal of being perfectly compassionate. It may be because you just can't be bothered, but you really can't let these things slide because look at the world, that's what happens. So anyway, I'm using the Steampunk Tarot and I'm using the Carnelian runes for bravery and courage and heart. And we're going to solve some of these doormat problems today. So feel into the cards. One or more of these is going to have a message for you about how to overcome one's doormat status if one has arrived at that status either voluntarily or involuntarily. And I will put the timestamps in the description, and I will see you at the readings. Bye! Hello, card number 1, people. So let's turn this card and see what we're dealing with as far as what's going on with there. Yeah, okay. So, the Hangman. So, it seems like for you, part of it was that you were opening yourself up to this new experience of saying to yourself something like, what, going forward, when somebody is mean to me, when somebody is disrespectful to me, I'm going to have the experience of that I'm going to just smile and allow it. And, that's important. Compassion training is to train yourself to be non-reactive as far as, you're not going to fly into a Donald Duck rage every time somebody says anything sideways at you. But at the same time, you can get to the point where you are literally being abused, and it's important to be able to stand up in those situations and leave. You don't have to fight, but once you recognize that you're being disrespected, then it's like, okay, I know where you stand, and now I'm going to go stand over there. So just cutting things off. But instead, it may have been something that you were definitely considering to be, part of your training. You don't want to be reactive. You don't want to be, flying off the handle anytime anybody says anything that you can perceive as, and that's important to do. However, make sure that if you are in situations where you're being very disrespected and where you really need to, especially where it's making things difficult in your life, definitely get yourself out of that. Get yourself out of there. And, that's not worth it for the training. Yes, be compassionate, love all people with on that one level with the whole unconditional thing. However, it doesn't mean you have to stop that level of unconditional love. It does mean, however, that you're going to remove yourself from those situations because So, like that. Okay. So your central issue here is represented by Manas, which is the rune of humanity and your part in it. So it's really, it does seem that you've been using this as a way to feel a greater sense of belonging with the world, to maybe expose yourself to other points of view that, normally you wouldn't experience or be exposed to. But, if you are if the way that you're fitting into the rest of humanity is that you are becoming nothing, then you're not actually fitting into humanity. You've erased yourself. So, and that's what it sort of leads up to this, is we have the blank rune. So it's sort of like vanishing yourself, like becoming like ultimate non-argumentative, like ultimate non-confrontational, like ultimate not a problemness. And like, so people feel that they can do whatever they want to around you. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people in the world who, what they want to do is hurt other people. And if they have somebody who allows them to do that, then they're going to love doing that, because they love the funny faces that they get made from that activity. And, you know, if there's somebody that's really genuinely, you know, trying to be loving and compassionate, no matter, and accepting, no matter what is done to them, then this is like fantastic. This is like total validation for their horrible behavior. And so we have to be careful with that. And again, if you're trying to fit into humanity by erasing yourself, like any sort of ness of you, then this is probably not really you fitting in, because it's not you being who you are, you know, in a sense of belonging. So anyway, so that's what led up. We had the blank rune. So here we are in the central issue moment of, it's like, okay, but then what do I do? Because that seems to be the only way that I've been able to be allowed to live, is to be completely compliant and all that. So what helps? So we have Yira. Yira is the root of the harvest and also time. So I'm going to read this a few ways. First of all, to put a time limit on this, like if this is something that you're training yourself in, like treat it as, you know, okay, this is a course I'm taking. This is like a lesson that I'm doing. This is an exercise or a project that I'm having. So I'm going to do this for a certain amount of time and then review my notes, basically. Two, you're basically, it is the harvest. So you're basically, look at what you're getting from what you're doing. Like, look at what you're getting from this. Like, what is it that you have from this? Like, do you have greater peace of mind, or have you just made people around you think that they can get away with anything? and including up to and including hurting you. So, and taking your, you know, like stepping over your boundaries and things. So boundaries are important. So basically just, set yourself a time limit on how long you want to be working on this as a pointed thing for now, before you take a break and review your notes. And secondly, like, have a look at what you have, what you're getting from it. Like, what are the fruits of your labors for this? Because, you know, you're probably going to have, this is one of the things that when people go through like the love and light phase of spiritual development, and then they basically, you know, and it feels so good, and you've got the whole thing about, you know, love can conquer everything, and it's like, well, you know, you still have to have boundaries, and you still have to take care of, you know, your existence, your, you know, safety and sanity. So, all it's going to take is for you to try to use love and light to overcome, for example, a vicious like attack of some, like, I'm not saying like violent, because obviously you can't, you know, Care Bear your way out of a violent attack, but, you know, people who are just do not have your best interest in mind, and if they get I'm thinking of things like narcissistic injury. If you're dealing with something like that, and that person is going off on you, you can shine as hard as you can on that person, and it's not going to be it's not going to stop them. You will feel it in your face, like it will prickle. So it's like and this is important, and I don't think you can learn this until you actually experience it. So it's hard, but basically, I mean, you have to get to the point where you're going to learn that, and it's depressing, because then, you know, you're like, but I thought, I believed that would handle anything. It's like, no, unfortunately, you have to be able to have boundaries. So, long story. So when you're doing this, when you're exposing yourself to this and like using it to train your compassion and patience and non-reactiveness, make sure that you're giving yourself time, like, to step out of that and say, okay, what am I getting from this? What am I learning from this? What is my harvest from this? And, you know, see if that's something that's nourishing you, or if that's something that you need to work on. So What won't help is we have Gabo, which is the rune of the gift. This is always an exchange. It's agreements, decisions, goals, and plans. It looks like this was your plan. Like, I just want to be the most compliant person. I don't want to cause any ripples. I don't want to cause any problems. I just want to be there as this, like, shining nothing that people can just do whatever they want to around me. Or to me in that case. And this is an agreement that you made with yourself. And this is like a vow that you had. And that's hard because, you know, this was really important to you, and it is really important to you. However, especially when you start to get doormatted, this is where you have to start to really reconsider that and say, you know, maybe boundaries are really important and we need to start doing that. Next step on the path line, we have Uru's reversed. This is the center of the entire reading. This is what pins it. So first of all, that's interesting, actually. I'm not sure if I'm going to read it that way. One of the reads of this. We're dealing with inner strength here. We're dealing with resilience. We're dealing with a focus on what you are going to not resist, a focus on what you are going to allow, because there are going to be things. I mean, obviously, if you are taking the compassionate path, there are going to be things that you're going to have to find where the line is. You know, what do I allow? You know, what is okay? Like and I think like an example would be, you know, like, you know, maybe like somebody like wearing something that you don't like, but they love, you know, and this is exactly the whole non-reactive thing. It's like, this is something that let people love what they love. If it doesn't hurt anybody, it doesn't hurt you, you know, whatever. Like somebody comes in wearing, I think people hate Uggs, like in general, like people love Uggs or people hate Uggs, but let's say somebody comes in with Uggs. Definitely good to train yourself to be non-reactive to that, because there's no reason to tell somebody that is chosen to wear something that clearly they love that you hate that. Like, why? Why would you do that? Why would you say that? That's terrible. So yes, definitely train yourself to be non-reactive to that. If somebody is doing something that they love and gives their life happiness and joy, just because it doesn't give you happiness or joy, it doesn't hurt you. So this is where this is like, okay, we'll allow that. It's like you can sort of inwardly go, ugh, but you... I don't think I even know what Uggs are, to be honest. But anyway, I'm just using it as an example because in the world of the internet, I see people talking about that. Anyway, but that's the kind of thing. So for something where it's something going on around you that doesn't hurt you, it doesn't break any of your boundaries, and it's basically somebody's joy that doesn't hurt anybody, fine, you know, whatever, that's an allow. But see where it's going to be a situation where if something is going on and you are just like, I'm going to allow everybody to do everything and be themselves, sometimes being themselves is something that's going to hurt you and you need to stand up for that. And in this case, you're going to watch for in situations where you are bracing inwardly, where you're like, because it's reversed, so there's an inner component and you've got the wild ox digging in, but inwardly, so you're sort of bracing against that, watching for that. That's important. What's going to help you there is we have Raido reversed, which is the journey rune. It's reversed, so it's inner, but it's also an ending. So what's going to help you is where you notice that you are bracing internally for things, and it is something that it does cause you harm, and it does harm you, and it's something that somebody is happily doing that is causing harm to you. I know that's sort of like some people could even argue it's like, oh, I see these things I hate and it causes me harm. It's like, no, it doesn't. It really doesn't. You can just go ew and move on. But where it's something where somebody's taken your freedoms and like making you miserable and trying to make you hate what you love. You know, when it's an abusive situation, you definitely need to end that. So ending things where it's like that is important. At the same time, what's going to help you is also to just like take that little inner journey step where it is something that is not a problem and that you can just allow. What isn't going to help is letting things just get out of hand. Again, with that, you know, where you're becoming a doormat and you've had this decision that you've made, it's like, I'm just going to be a nothing and let everybody do whatever. Letting that continue to get out of hand is definitely not going to help. We definitely need to sort out where the line is. What your next step is on the path line, we have Nauthi's reversed. Nauthi's is the rune of need. And this has to do with tending your needs, but it is reversed, and that usually means drop everything and tend your needs. So once you've seen where the line is for you, treat violations of that line, like people who try to overstep that boundary and people who cross that line, treat that situation as an emergency. Don't let it go. Don't let it slide. Don't let it roll off your back. You're going to stand up and go, yeah, okay, so that's disrespectful. And even if they argue, just so you're like, you know what, yeah, but I can't be here for that. Bye, that kind of thing. What's going to help you with that is, see, a lot of this feels surface like contradictory, because here you are, it's like you've got to, sorry camera, because part of it is, this is basically saying drop everything, there's an emergency, and also to take care of inner needs. What's going to help you is we have Ivaz, which is the rune of the yew tree, which is patience, slow growth, and slow development, and step by step. So it's like, be patient. Maybe it's just be patient with yourself getting used to treating things as an emergency, because you've been all this time training yourself to be non-reactive, and it's gotten to the point where it's become a problem. Because if you are non-reactive to something that's an emergency, then that's a huge issue. So I think being patient with yourself is definitely going to be the message here. So what isn't going to help is, yeah, you're worried about getting back to being reactive, because I think this is one of the things that there's the reason you started it to begin with, is because you were worried about, being too reactive to things. And, we all grow up, and there's things that, when you're a kid, it's like the least inconvenience, like, so we do want to get away from that. There's a certain level of maturity to, not reacting like a 6-year-old to every single inconvenience. So, but there is a worry that if you go back to that, to being a little bit more reactive, which is sometimes important, like if, it's like if something's on fire, you don't just sit there and it's like, maybe I should allow this. No, you do not. You immediately get up and treat it as an emergency. So there is a worry about that, and there's a worry about energy levels as well. But I'm just sort of seeing the sun here as, we're going back to the fiery reactiveness, and that's just, I don't think that's not really going to happen, because it has meant a lot to you to become less reactive and to become more compassionate, and also just basically, allowing what you can allow, but that cannot include abuse. So in situations where you notice that the line that you've decided and established has been crossed and the boundary has been disrespected, this is where you need to be like standing up immediately and saying, no, we're not doing that. And the recommendation is just be patient with yourself on this, because, it's sort of, there's going to be part of you where it's like, I really wanted to be, perfect compassion and perfect patience. And it's like, yeah, but not at the expense of your sanity. So ultimately, there will be a breakthrough. We have Dagaz, which is the rune of the breaking of the day. So there's going to be a point where it's just going to all click. You're going to be like, okay, I get it. We have to honor, because you're a person too in the world, and you are also worthy of your honoring and, giving you what you need in the world. So it's going to be one of those things where you're going to be like, no, I am important too. And sometimes I'm the only one who's going to take care of me. So I need to be able to stand up for that and make sure that, while there is more patience with the people in the world around me, I'm not allowing people to walk all over me, and I'm not allowing myself to be treated as a doormat, because that's disrespectful. So that is your reading card number 1, people. I wish you all the best with this, and I wish you a lovely day or evening. Take care till next time. Bye. Hello, card number 2, people. So let's start. Give this card a turnover and see turnovers. Give this card a turning over and see what we're dealing with for why we may have been assuming doormat status for some reason. So we have the death card. Death that doesn't necessarily refer to actual physical death, but it does have to do with major change. So there may have been a situation where, and honestly, I'm looking at this card, and there may, for some of you, have been a death that happened. Let's just bring that in as a possibility, because in those cases, everybody wants to be very, very, very careful with each other, and that's fine. That's very important. But there may be situations where you're being careful to the point where people are doormatting you, and that's not okay. Like, even in this situation, you know, even when people clearly are hurting, you know, there's that saying about hurt people, and there's that saying about, you know, and there's the whole thing, like, people will try to justify abuse by saying, oh, well, I was miserable, I was going through the thing. Abuse is always a choice, okay? There's a lot of people who have bad days and manage to never abuse anybody. Like, everybody has their bad days. Think of what bad days you've had. It's not something that is, you even if you have a bad day, you don't necessarily, you're not, don't do it. Just like you don't have to be abusive. And having a bad day is not an excuse. Like, it's always a choice. So don't use that as an excuse for people. Like, if people are having a bad day or are miserable, it's never an excuse for being abusive to other people. Never. Never, 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 never. So that. But the death card is also has to do with major change. And there may be a situation where everything around you has changed for whatever reason. Not necessarily because of a death, but because of just a major, major change. And as such, maybe you're not sure what is acceptable in the new setting and what is not. And so to be safe, you've been very compliant. You've been very, allowing of the things because it's all new and you're not sure, if you refuse some of this, then maybe you're going to get in trouble with the new setting. And let's get some runes down. So I'm going to lay down the whole reading. So yeah, it's that was sort of like that, wasn't it? There we are. Yeah, something that happened. And it was overwhelming for sure. How are you? What rune is this? Okay, that goes there. If you're watching this on the day that I post this, apparently it's the Leonids tonight. If you have clear skies, which in Toronto we rarely do for fancy sky events, but if you have clear skies and you're watching this on the day, tonight go out and have a peek, because maybe you will see something. Okay, central issue for this is Vunya reversed. Vunya is the rune of joy, and reversed, honestly, in the central issue spot, I am seeing this as a moment of sadness or misery. So for a lot of people, unfortunately, this might actually have to do with a death situation, like a physical death. Not all of you. Other ones of you is, oh my gosh, grammar. For other ones of you, it's just you find yourself miserable in a situation. You find yourself discontented, unhappy, and looking inwardly for your joy. Leading up to this, there was a chaotic situation. Something has happened that has caused major change that was out of your control. Things that were not in your control, and change happened. So now you're in a situation where maybe it happened a little while ago and you were just sort of moving along with it, and as such have found yourself in a situation where you feel miserable because things are happening that you could stand up and stop, but you're worried about it. What is going to help you is we have Sovilo, which is the rune of the sun. So this has to do with source energy. So whatever it is that whenever you experience it or access it or do it, always gives you energy, always gives you nourishment. Keep those on hand. Like, make sure that you are, like, if walking in nature replenishes you, or if listening to music replenishes you, make sure you have that kind of thing on hand so that you can always take care of it. Like, you can always access it, because you're going to need it at this point, and that's going to help you get back to who you're, like, get back to your good mental state where you're going to be thinking more clearly, and then you're going to be like, okay, you know what? I have to work on why I'm discontented. I have to work on why I'm not particularly happy at the moment. based on whatever happened that changed things. What isn't going to happen is that you're still feeling a bit overwhelmed from the change. We have Dagaz, which is the rune of the breaking of the day. And that overwhelm, that's one of the reasons why you just sort of not froze, but just sort of like became very, very compliant to the things that were going on, because you realized there was nothing you could do about it. But then now it's happened, and now you're in a situation where you can do something about it, but you're sort of wary. So it still feels very overwhelming. And so when you bring yourself to that point, you just feel like, okay, I'm just going to go along with things. We're just going to ride this out. We're going to let things slide. Not really helping you, though, because it's doing that's been making you miserable. So bringing yourself back up to what does give you energy whenever you access it, and whatever does replenish you and give you that source energy, that's what's going to help you get through this point. And it could just be, for some of you, it could just be you need to go through the grieving process, but you also need to not be treated like a doormat while you're doing that. Your next step on the path line and pinning the entire reading is Gabo, which is the rune of the gift. This has to do with agreements, decisions, goals, and plans. A gift is always an exchange. There may also be a one-on-one interaction that has to happen. In that it is agreements, decisions, goals, and plans. Definitely sit down and really plan out things in your day so that you have access to the things that keep you sane and have access to the things that keep you feeling okay, because that's important. Yes, we have to go through things, but doesn't mean we have to be completely miserable, just like with our boundaries being stepped on and all that. Just, make sure that you're doing whatever you can and whatever you do have access to do to keep yourself as sane as possible for this. What is going to help you is, as soon as you do that, you're going to see results. You're going to see the fruits of your labors for that. So even if you're like, I'm going to make sure that I am going to put this amount of time in the day to do such and such thing that always makes me feel happier, and immediately you're going to see results. Like, you're going to feel a lot better. You're going to feel clearer. So we have the harvest rune, Yira, which is the rune of harvest and also time. So make sure that you are setting yourself a time to access these things that help you. And you're going to see that. You're going to see the results immediately. What isn't going to help is this worry about surprises. And it's not even necessarily like bad surprises. It's just things that are not in your plan. So you're going to plan out your day. You're going to sit down and make sure that things are a little bit more geared towards helping you, which you need. But there is always going to be that worry about something that's going to happen that you didn't expect. And that could drag you down if you let it, it could drive you crazy. But if that starts to drag you down, bring yourself back up to, it's like, already, even with the plan that I have, things are starting to feel better. I am seeing results that are nourishing me. Your next step on the path line, we have Ansu's reversed. Ansu's is the rune of communication and manifestation and expression. And in the path line and reversed, I'm seeing this as inner. So make sure that you have good conversation going on with your inner voice, so to speak, with yourself, basically. Like, keep that going on. Like, when you are about to comply with something, ask yourself, really ask yourself. Don't just roll with it. Say, is this something that is going to make me miserable later? Is this something that's going to cross a boundary with me and make it difficult for me to say no in future? Things like that. And then just basically have that conversation with yourself internally, and that's what you're going to be doing. You're going to basically be checking with yourself. What's going to help you with that is just basically remembering that this is your journey and you direct it. Raido is the journey rune, and it's not jump on a train journey. It's a horse. It's riding a horse. So you are working with spirit to direct your journey forward. So realizing that you are you have a certain say in where you're going to go with your life, that's going to help you a lot with these conversations that you're going to have internally whenever you're faced with a situation like this, what has put you into a doormat status, unfortunately. What isn't going to help is we have Arcana. I am literally going to read this as family on one level. You may be dealing with, and it may not even be actual family, but it may be people that you've been dealing with your whole life that are really, really close. But situations where there are pre-existing obligations where you feel like you couldn't possibly say no, but you know, it's your life. So there's that. The other thing is you're worried about starting something new. And standing up for yourself may in fact be something new, at least in this situation. So if that starts to be the case, just remind yourself it's your life. It's your life. And people who are not living your life don't get to choose what is your life. We only have a certain amount of time and we don't even know how much that is. So we need to be able to really stand up and say, obviously there are situations where we're going to feel like, okay, I will feel bad if I don't do this. Like I will feel genuinely like that's not okay. Again, it's going to be a conversation with yourself. But it's your choice. It's got to be, because it's your life. So all this leads to the outcome, which is the Ingvaz rune. Ingvaz is Ing's rune. Ing is another name for Frey, and Frey is the fertility god. I read this as active creation. So it's just like I said earlier, going forward, once you have made, once you've reestablished a connection with your healthier self, once you have sat down and made agreements, decisions, plans, and goals, and maybe had a chat with somebody who you needed to, and once you establish an ongoing conversation with yourself on the things that you're dealing with, at that point, you're going to be getting pretty skilled with working with what you have and shaping around you a life that has boundaries and that has around you things that you're going to need to keep you healthy and sane. So that's your reading, card number 2, people. I wish you all the best with this. And phew, so I do, wish you all the best with this. And I wish you a lovely day or evening. Take care till next time. Bye. Hello, card number 3, people. So we're going to start by turning the card over and see what we're dealing with. Temperance. Okay, you are working on finding a balance, and that's important. You really need to do that. And it's balancing these 2 aspects of your life, or more than 2 aspects of your life, that are causing situations where, in order to maintain a balance, sometimes you may be letting things slide or letting things go that oughtn't to be allowed to be let to slide or let go. But you are working on it. So it's not like you aren't aware. Like at this point, I think this is probably why you're focusing on a good balance, because you've realized that the doormat thing was real and happening, and that you need to find a balance in your life where that's not happening. So good. So let's get some runes down. Did I just spit on the card? Yes. Okay. Awesome. We need to know about this situation. Yeah, so it's really about finding balance. Like this one, you're not coming at this from deep in doormat status. You are coming at this from, I need to do something about this, and I am already working on it. But there was that realization that happened where you were like, you know what? This can't continue. This is not sustainable. And so finding balance is the key. Let's get this down. Doop, doop, doop. Doopy, doopy, doop. Good. Central issue. We have a Yira, which is the rune of the harvest and also time. You're basically, I am seeing this as balance. I am seeing this as, in the present moment, finding that balance, because this really does look like it's mirroring this. But it's also, really existing in the present moment, finding that balance, finding where you're going to be getting your nourishment from, and finding that sense of abundance. Leading up to this, you had a realization. We have Pertho, which is the rune of the lot box. This has to do with surprises and fate. And it's always something that was already there. Whatever's in the lot box is in the lot box. And maybe you don't see it, but as soon as you open it, you're like, okay, that's what's in there. And that's the sort of realization that you had, which led you to like, I need to find more balance. So now you're looking at what you have. You're looking at, you're stepping into the present moment, and going, okay, what do we have? What do we have here? What do we have for nourishment? And what do we have that we need to take care of? What is going to help you? And we just had this in the same spot in the previous reading, is Raido. Raido is the rune of the journey. this is not a journey like jump on a train. This is a journey where you're on a horse. So you have a lot of say as to where the horse goes, and the horse is carrying you is spirit. So it's your life. And that's one of the things that is definitely going to help you in planning out what you're doing, where you're finding balance, is just remind yourself, you know what? Yes, but this is my life. This is my life, and I am going to make sure that it is more balanced than it was, because being a doormat is not fun. What isn't going to help? We have Nauthies, which is the rune of need. There may be a situation where, and I think in this case, it was a situation where you were being called on to ignore your needs in favor of others' needs. And that's, you know, it's that whole make sure that your own oxygen mask is in place before attempting to assist another. And the announcement on the airplane is not help everybody with their oxygen masks until you pass out. It is actually put your own oxygen mask on, and then you'll be able to help other people. So part of finding this balance is making sure that that oxygen mask of yours is fully in place before you go and help other people. Because I think these are very loud, and I think that that's fallen out of the box, where it's like that was all you were sort of. It's like Louisa in Canto, where she's like, I'm pretty sure I'm worthless if I can't be of service. It's like, you gotta fill your own cup. You know, you can't pour from an empty cup. So remember, it's your life, and you have to. It's your life. You have to find that balance and make sure that you are keeping yourself healthy, well, sane, and alive, so that you can help the people. Because obviously, you're a very helpful person. So what the next step is on the path line is we have Tivaz reversed. This pins the entire reading. This is reminding me of that character as well. Tivaz is Tyr's rune. Tyr has to do, he's the warrior god, but he has to do with taking care of what needs to be taken care of. So first of all, this rune for me, it's saying right now, definitely take care of your inner needs, take care of your personal needs, make sure that your duty and responsibility to yourself is being focused on. And this is really, really important. But also that you're not going to have any argument about this. Like, you're just like, I am, you know, I appreciate, you know, I recognize that you are having needs, and that you used to rely on me not taking care of my own needs in favor of taking care of other people's. However, right now, if you want me to help other people, you're going to let me take care of what I need, because then I'll be able to help you. So it's like no arguments allowed for this. You are absolutely, what am I doing to this? Here. No arguments allowed for this. I definitely want to make sure that you're turning and looking at yourself and saying, what do I need? And taking care of that, because you do have a duty and responsibility to yourself, and that's what you're focusing on. What is going to help you with that is we have Laguz, which is the rune of the water. It's emotion, intuition, heart, and flow. So really, you know, connect with heart, whatever that is for you. I mean, obviously, physical heart, but maybe that's the case for some of you. But just basically look at your emotions, like see where you're having that, because emotions are symptoms. Like, emotions, not necessarily emotions are weather, but sometimes they can be read as symptoms of where you need to direct your focus in order to take care of yourself. So be aware of that. Connect to heart, pay attention to intuition, and you know, allow yourself to flow. So if you have emotions that need to flow, just like the water flowing here, let them flow. Like, let those flow. Don't cling to them. Acknowledge them, but let them flow like the weather they are and the river they are. What isn't going to help is we have Berkana underneath this. It's not helping. So I'm going to read this a couple ways. First way I'm going to read it is there may be a family connection here where you may feel obligated because, you know, either family, or somebody, like people around you that you consider family. And you feel like you can't say no. Also, just this, you're worried about beginning this. You're worried about beginning this new you, about birthing this new you that takes care of itself. Because for whatever reason, I mean, you might feel like nobody's going to like me if I take care of myself. It's like, well, you gotta, because you won't be able to help other people if you're not well. So definitely fears, bring yourself back up to becoming aware of and acknowledging your emotions, and just basically, you know, allowing for that. And what was the other one? What was the other one I was talking about with this? Oh, well, anyway, Be aware of that. But connecting to heart. Connecting to heart. What your next step is on the path line is Othala reversed. Othala is the rune of the home and the homeland. Reversed, I always read it right away 3 ways. First of all, letting go of things that no longer serve you. Second, stepping outside of your comfort zone. And third, finding home within. I'm really going to stick with the first one for now on this, which is just letting go of the things that no longer serve you. This need to neglect yourself is, what puts you into doormat status, and you got to let that go. So recommend the runes. So letting go of that, first of all. But I mean, just like, it may be outside of your comfort zone to take care of yourself, which is ironic, but there's that. So, but definitely, find a sense of home and make this step, because you are by this point certainly feeling better than you were before. In fact, one of the things that's going to really help you with this is that having done that, you feel like your inner strength is like just blazing at that point. It's like I've replenished myself. I can't go back to what I was doing before. So I'm going to keep doing that, and we're going to be strong inwardly. The other thing I'm going to read this as is, see, Uru's reversed often has to do with letting go of resistance. So it may be like the resistance to the idea that I'm going to take care of myself. So you're going to let go of resistance to that, and then you're like, because I've let go of resistance to that, I can let go of this, this drive to neglect myself. What isn't going to help is we have Sovilo, which is the rune of the sun. You are a bit worried about energy levels, which is why you're doing this. But I'm also seeing this as, let me just throw down, I'm going to throw down another on top and bottom to clarify these. Yes, there's decisions for you. Yeah. So, because people are loud, the din of them is loud, and you may feel like your, whatever nourishment and energy you're getting from the people is coming from serving people all the time. And that if you're not doing that at the expense of yourself, then you're not going to have access to that. And that's not true, because you already are seeing that you're feeling better having started doing this. And once you realize that, and once you're feeling like I'm feeling so much stronger, healthier inwardly, then you can actually make that into a plan. Like, going forward, this is my agreement with myself, is that I'm going to take care of myself and make sure that I am healthy and well before I attempt to assist other people. And I'm definitely not going to do it at the expense of myself anymore. So all this is going to lead you to, we have Ansu's reversed, which is the rune of communication and manifestation and expression. So definitely you're going to establish a inner communication, a communication with yourself that you're going to be referring back to as you move forward. And as people come at you with these things that they just expect you to drop everything and do, turn to your own better judgment and say, is this something that I have the energy to do right now, or do I need to make sure that I am healthy and well enough to do this before I say yes to this, regardless of who's asking for it? And just sort of just have that, to have that. I mean, there are going to be times where you're going to have to drop everything because it's an emergency. However, in general, you just basically want to make sure that you're referring back to yourself. It's like, is this something that's crossing a boundary for me? Is this something that is going to actually wipe me out? And is this something where if you have something like a really great, like a energetic plan, like if I'm going to go hiking on Sunday and I'm not going to go and help somebody move furniture on Saturday. That's a terrible example. But anyway, same sort of thing. So that is, refer back to yourself. Just have that going on, that judgment happening in your internal dialogue. Dialogue. So there you go, card number 3, people. That's your reading for Doormat No More. I wish you all the best with this, and I wish you a lovely day or evening. Take care till next time. Bye. Hello, card number 4, people. So let's get started. Turn this card, see what we're dealing with. Oh my gosh. So, Devil card. So this is where you're doing something that's against your better judgment, and that's against, it doesn't have your best interest in mind, but you feel obligated to it. But you're not, because now this one isn't as clear as like the Smith deck, Smith Waite deck, where the chains in the traditional Smith Waite deck are easily removed. These ones are not so easily removed, but same idea. Like, it's the same sort of thing as like these. They're doing it because they think they don't have a choice, but they do. The chains can be easily removed, and they can just walk out of there. Yeah, I know these look like they're a lot more tightly. So maybe you feel like you're a lot more tightly being controlled by this, but still, it's still your choice. This is not a person. This is something that got put in place, and that they can just basically, like, she could probably reach up and push his belly button and turn him off. So just gonna make up stories about the pictures. So yes, in the Devil card, it's just like a sense of obligation to something that is not. It's not in your best interest. It's not helping you, and it's something that you can walk away from. You're not as trapped as you think. So but because you feel at this point in time obligated to this, you're being treated as a doormat by it. You've put yourself into doormat status. Well, that's interesting. That's interesting. Because it was a willing thing initially, but now it's not sustainable. So this is why you've got to take those chains off. Remember what it was originally for. Where was that? I'm just going to sit it. I'm going to sit it on its back. What the heck? I'm going to read it both ways. Because I don't remember. It's not that I don't remember. It's like I can't really decide which one that is. Let's do this instead. I'm going to give a top and bottom on this, and that'll clarify all of it. Woohoo! So, right. Central issue on this read, we have Uruz, which is the rune of the wild ox. This has to do with strength and health and digging in. And I'm not going to really use resistance in this so much, but like stubbornness towards it. So it's something that you've built. It's something that you've set up. It originally made you feel stronger, but the situation has gotten to a point where you've become controlled by it, and you are now in a doormat status to it. Leading up to this, you had absolutely amazing intentions. We have Tivaz, which is Tears rune, Tears the warrior god. This has to do with, driving forward, but also, excuse me, taking care of things that need to be taken care of. So this is something you put in place that gives that solidity, that like it's something that was good, and it gave a sense of strength, and it gave a sense of solidness. However, right now you're in a situation that you're being controlled by it, where it's not a sustainable situation. What is going to help you? We have Algies, which is rune of the elk. This has to do, or the moose, if you're in North America. And this has to do with protection and support. So basically, you're going to look to your supports, because this is something I think that was put in place to be a part of that. But I think it's sort of overstayed its welcome, and also it's draining more than it should be. Whereas you already have a lot of things that are in place that you can sort of step to when you dismantle this. So look at what supports you have. Look at what support you have from other people around you. This is upright, so it's referring to external around you. So people and systems and things that are keeping you supported, even without this, is what you're looking at. Inner support is implied, but it's not specifically inner support in this case. It is outward. What isn't going to help is we have the blank rune. It's like you don't know what's going to, like this is one of the things that you put up to plan for the unknown kind of thing. You put this in place, and then you have to tend it constantly, and you are being controlled by it. You basically are a slave to it, which is not what you originally intended. This was something you put in place because you had great energy and you're driving forward and you want to make things solid and strong. But, there are things in place that'll take care of that. There are people who will help you. There are systems that will help you. So look at what support you have. And even though this was originally put in place to help things be stronger and more solid, there are things around you that can take the place of this, because right now this is not good for you, or really anybody involved. So your next step on the path line, we have Laguz, which is the rune of the water. It's the lake. It has to do with emotion, intuition, heart, and flow. That's really what you're going to find, because this was sort of put in place. Like way back in the day, I worked at jobs that were just soul draining, and you'd forget how to feel. And so once you start to realize, okay, this is taking too much from me, and once things start to free up from stepping away from that, taking the chains off, you're going to start to feel again. And it's going to flow, and it's going to be a lot, and you're going to have to acknowledge what you're going through, but it's just let it flow like the weather that it is, or the river that it is. But you're going to deal with that. And you're also reconnecting with heart. You're reconnecting what your true truth is. What is going to help you with that is make sure that you have your inner dialogue happening. Make sure you are having those conversations with yourself, and you're paying attention to that. Maybe giving yourself some silence as well, because algae is the rune of communication, manifestation, and expression. Reversed not only has to do with inner, but also has to do with listening and silence. So you're going to give yourself some of that, because this is you incubating a new you. We have Berkana reversed on the upper line. I used to call it the Uber line, but then there's like this travel service that is that now. So whatever. So anyway, the upper line is Berkana reversed. This is the rune of the birch tree, which is beginnings and birth. And deep inside, you're starting something new with yourself. You're becoming you're incubating a new you. And that's happening because, do you hear those sirens? Are those coming through the microphone? Some sirens outside. So you basically want to have that inner communication with yourself to just basically sort out where you're at with, these emotions that you're having now that you're not exhausted, and also just moving forward, connecting to heart, having that flow, getting your intuition back, all that. What isn't going to help is we have Fehu, which I've just put on its side because I couldn't decide whether it was upright or not. I'm going to read it both ways. You're just worried about worth. And there may be like a material worth element to it, but I'm really just in general worth about things, because if you stop this, because this was sort of your redundancy plan kind of thing that sort of took over. And so you're sort of worried about, the worth of things. That's going to drag you down, as well as, what do I have to show for this? Like all of this, and all it seemed to do was make me exhausted. And you're sort of like, I've wasted all this time with it. That could drag you down if you wanted to, if you let it. But honestly, if that starts to happen, just remind yourself, this is a necessary process. I have to go through this removal situation from this, because this was doormatting me. And now I'm listening to myself, and I'm becoming a new me, which is going to be apart from that. Your next step on the path line is we have Hagalaz, which is the rune of the hailstorm. I often read this as chaos and things that are out of your control, but I also like to read this as it's like natural forces and your true nature. So there is a sense of you're going to be stepping out into where you don't know what's going to come at you, and because this was a worry from the beginning. Like you're always worried about what This was a contingency plan. So now you're stepping out back into the wild without a contingency plan. You have to remember that you too are a force of nature, and that you are able to work with what happens even if it's chaotic. But there is that sense of that you don't have this that was a protection, even though it was wiping you out, and you weren't even using it. It's just you were just maintaining it. So as you step back out into that, what's going to help you? See it as a challenge. See it as your challenge. We have Thurisaz, which is the rune of the challenge. It's the thorn, the giant, the gateway. It is upright, so it's an open challenge. It's not a supremely difficult challenge. It's an open door. But it's something that you are going to have to be brave and face. You're going to have to face this challenge. You're stepping back out into the chaos without this. But did this ever come in handy before? Was all it was doing was wiping you out, I think, and that you felt like controlled by it and that you had to serve it, and it never helped even once. So, I mean, I'm thinking like maybe even about this. So if anything even does happen remotely with this, I'm sure it'd be easy to whip up, but it's not the sort of thing that you need to keep super, super maintained at your expense. So it is your challenge. You're moving forward. You have whatever tools and skills you've accumulated along the way, but just step forward through that door, even if you don't know what's out there. And what isn't going to help is we have Pertha reversed. Once again, that's the surprise. You're worried about facing a surprise. And it's not even necessarily a bad surprise. It's upright. So it's basically anything you haven't planned for, which is why this happened in the first place. You're worried about things that you maybe haven't planned for. But just if that starts to drag you down, bring yourself back up to, it's like, no, you know what? This is my challenge. I'm stepping through the door into the wild, and remembering that I am also a force of nature. What this is all going to lead you to is we have Nauthies, which is the rune of need. I'm seeing this as you are going to be in a situation where you're going to have energy again, that if a need arises, you'll be able to face this and address it and take care of it. You do have all this, support. You have, friends and systems around you that are going to give you the support you need for pretty much anything that this was covering, which it never even did because it was just like something you were taking care of. So just feeling more confident in that as you've moved forward into what is essentially the chaos of the world, and any storms that come your way, that you are fully able to identify and deal with any needs that arise because of the support around you and because of whatever experience you have. But you will at least have the energy now to deal with them, which you didn't at the beginning of this reading because you were so stuck with this. And now you realize you're not trapped. You're never as trapped as you think you are. So chains off, forward motion, on we go. So that, card number 4, people, is your reading for Doormat No More. I wish you all the best for this, and I wish you a lovely day or evening. Take care till next time. Bye.